Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot. Very happy to be here today. So I have Casey Clare with me. And actually, I just stumbled on her online, and I think it maybe someone referred me to you. But I started looking over your stuff, and I thought, you know, I should definitely have you on the show, and I liked what I saw. So I prefer it if you introduce yourself. You did send me a short bio, and that is on your page on my website already. But why don't you introduce yourself and tell us how you got to where you are today?
Okay. Well, my name is Casey Clare, and online I am consciousnessexploration.com. Our group is the Galactic Travel Channel. There's not really much to say about me. I was born in the 1960s in Las Vegas. I spent most of my life there until moving to Los Angeles about 15 years ago. And then about 3 years ago, came down to San Diego. The awakening I had when I was 44 happened there in Los Angeles. And I suspect that's what we're about to go into here, because it led to an interesting dormant spiritual skill being activated. That is intriguing, to say the least. That's it. That's enough about me. We can dive right into the work.
Okay. Well, that's very short. Let's now, I know in your bio you said you had a Kundalini awakening experience. So why don't we talk about that briefly?
Yes, the awakening was a Kundalini awakening. It's what I call a top-down awakening. So my crown opened in my awareness first, which meant I immediately had access to the realms, and I began consciously shifting our body. This process was a 4-year process for me. It happened every day, every night for 4 years. So while this is happening, I'm being acclimated to what it's like to make the conscious shift. Or what I simply call being liberated within the lifetime. People call it ascension, which is typically associated with the body and body ascension, and I associate it that way too. We are making this kind of a shift. Let's see, the body got cleared. It was extremely painful for a period of time, and after that was over, and during the whole year, during that whole process, again, I'm exploring the realms. The first thing I discover is the ET contact I've been having since childhood, a particular species that comes for me that I do not like going out to at all. And this is a part of my barrier that I'm still making my way through, that's inevitably going to allow us to trans-channel, which is what I'm meant to do. The crystal work, I'm not sure was ever meant to come online. It did simply because I couldn't get the vocal channels going, because I can't open my eyes in this experience. So a lot of my ET contacts are on board craft, on the table, their examinations. And a part of my conscious, service is to be aware of that particular experience on the table. It's not easy to be aware of. But that was a part of what I was meant to do, to help others understand and myself to understand what we're going to get into when we go into what's happening through the crystal. So I think that's all I can, or that's really important to say about the awakening in itself. It was a top-down process. I had immediate access to the realms. The contact that I'm having when I'm in what I call additional consciousness space is with the ETs. A lot of ETs, a lot of them are connecting with me, and that's what we see through the crystal. So we've had hundreds of them come through. I'm able to show them to you in full portrait style face shots, who they are and what they look like. Not so much the information, but the formations, the pictures themselves. The information is forthcoming. It's started to happen, but isn't fully online yet.
Okay, now I appreciate that. And I had a Kundalini experience, and it lasts a very long time. So, you know, it's quite intense in the early days, but what I call it is what you have is repeated samadhi experiences after that. And sometimes it's stronger than others and all of that kind of thing. So I see that you are sort of having contact, showing these little faces in the crystals. And so that would be great to talk about, and all of, and anything else you want to talk about. So
shall we give people a brief,
yeah.
Sorry, just a moment. Shall we give people a brief look at what I meant?
That'd be great.
I put some as virtual backgrounds here so I could just pop them up behind me. Okay, so this is an example, and I'll just move out of the way. So that's Shaw, and he's coming through a crystal.
Okay, now maybe you should describe how he's coming through, like the logistics of the crystal. Like, is it placed on a table? You know, how does that work?
It's very informal. So we're not doing this formally. We don't have any professional setup. This is done very casually, just in whatever room I'm in with whatever light I have. I'm holding the crystal in my hand, which is challenging. It would be much easier if I had a device to hold and rotate the crystal for me. I could get much better shots. This is right at the top of the line of what's come through as far as obvious is. But I'm just holding the crystal. Okay. I'm holding my cell phone camera. This is so I can show you. Okay, and I'm making discovery. There's portals, sunrise, sunset, equinoxes, solstices. During these times, you get stuff like this. And this is just a tidbit of what comes through. What comes through are entire scenes, entire stories. For instance, I got my birth into the earth life. This is in a single frame. It's multi-dimensional, and you can see through them. We can put that one up too if we need to. Most people can't see these kind of frames. They can only see the 3D. We've learned how to make it 3D. So it comes through in multi-dimensions. 6D, almost nobody can see. 5D, almost nobody can see. 4D, very few people can see. Almost everybody needs to see in 3D. So, yeah, I'm just holding it. I'm going into what I just call a triangulated point on the crystal. So this is the crystal I work with for all the portraits that we're getting. And this is Isa. She's just a citrine quartz crystal. You can see she's cloudy and she has clarity. She has a rainbow in her center. This is what provides a lot of the color that comes through in the frames. And a quartz crystal is six-sided. So where three of these faces meet at a particular point, I learned that if I went into that exact point, windows begin opening. I don't see inside the crystal, for instance. These windows begin to open. It takes me out beyond the crystal. And this way, signals coming from the other direction can coming through. The best signals come through with the sun.
Okay, meaning you take it outside and subject it to sunlight? Is that what you're saying?
I don't have to go outside. I can just sit in a sunlit room, or I can hang out somewhere where the sun is directly coming into the space. Sure. Outside is going to be what I'll call overexposed. Sure. I'll be able to see, but it won't embed into the photograph that I'm taking.
All right. And when you're doing this, do you have anyone else in the room or just yourself?
Just me. Well, and all the others, but they're not in 3D space.
I mean, yeah, the humans. Okay. So when you're taking the picture, are you know, because it's kind of hard to balance that, right? You've got something in one hand and something in another hand. And so how are you managing that? Like, is it difficult?
This crystal was made for my hand, literally made for my hand. And I do have to rotate it sometimes into very awkward positions to get what it is I'm going for, which is why I'm saying if I had equipment, you know, in a professional setup to do this, we could do so much more than what I am. And it's only in this past year that I've had the time to go in and do work with the crystal. I generally am working 24/7. had a job. But this past year, we had somebody come by and make it possible for me to focus the entire year on this work. And so we have made strides. I've figured out what it is they're doing with us through this. There's a particular story we're meant to tell, and I've finally discovered what that story is. I simply call it the Book of Ur, which is the bloodline of Ur, which is one of the main beings, the family tree of all the beings that come through the crystal. And I am in this bloodline. I fit in the tree. I myself have come through, and they show me where I fit in. Yeah.
So can you spell this? How are you spelling that word? Or
You are like the city of Ur.
Okay,
Yeah.
like in Göbekli Tepe.
Yes.
All right. So now, do you have more pictures to show us, or did you just want to talk about it? Because we can do both, whatever you'd like.
Yeah, let's let everybody see a few. So here's an example of how they come through in caricature.
Wow.
So there's this thing that happens when you're going out of body. If you're able to stay conscious through the shift itself, you'll notice that as you're going in to what I just simply call a landing location, into a physical space, the further you are away from it, the more cartoon-like it looks. As you get closer, it starts to look a bit caricature, half real, half not. And then once you're there, it just looks like our 3D reality does, very close to what I'll just say reality. So this is how they come through to start out with. It's at a distance, and they're gaining our permission to come in closer and more real to life, like Shaw did. So we're working the beings coming through in our group. I have a small group, a forum board, the website, its own platform. And together, we're just combining our energy. We're looking at the frames. We're connecting with these beings, and inner work is being done. But when there's kind of a collective yes, let's see more, we begin to see more.
Okay, so you are working with other people, but you're alone in the room with yourself and whatever beings are there. Yeah.
When I'm working, sure. Yeah. Somebody could be in the room. Yeah. Yeah. So like I do work with the crystal when I'm hanging out with friends sometimes,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me see. Now, are they speaking to you? Are you hearing anything? Is it audible, or is it telepathic?
It's telepathic, but in a very audible sense to me. Like, I'm very aware they're here. It's very easy for me to speak with them. They contact me in out-of-body states, so they'll pull me out of body. Like in the middle of the day, I just all of a sudden feel like if I don't lay down, I'm going to fall down. That means I'm getting called in. So I'll lay down and I'll shift out of body, and I connect with them.
Okay.
I don't always make it back with this data, but because I'm aware that they're calling me in and I'm laying down, I'm aware that it has happened. And then sometimes I make it back with more, and sometimes with less. It sort of depends on what the
more beings, or more what?
I'm sorry?
You're saying sometimes you make it back with more
data, more of the experience. So I don't always make it back into physical space with that experience fully intact, only that it happened. Yeah, I'm getting called in. I better lay down, shift out of body.
So are you feel like you're going into a trance? Are you staying, semi-awake during this time? Because you say you sometimes get more and...
Yeah, I often get in there still fully conscious. So I can generally stay conscious through the shift. I can generally stay conscious when I'm in there. Whether I'm let to retain that experience back in physical space or not is a whole nother matter. It depends on what the content of that experience was. Yeah. Okay. And of course, communication is really hard to bring back. I can bring back where I was, who I was with, things like that. But the communication that occurs is often very challenging to make it back with. And that's because we're supposed to open the channel. And if they give me the information this way, we'll never open the vocal channel so others can get the information. So sometimes people we know come through this is an example, and the frame is really small down there. I'll show you the full frame of Albert there in a second. But he's one that's come through. David Bowie was the first. He's associated with my template. How cool is that? Nostradamus has come through. I'm sorry, I'm doing so many things at once. I now can't think.
That's okay. So, okay.
So this is him in full, and you can see him there.
Right.
Yeah, and then, so the beings come through this way. If you see him, you'll see that attached to his eye is another face, and then another face attached to an eye. This is what I would call a 4D shot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and that gets in a lot of people's way. They can't see where when the beings are attached by the eye, all over the
Well,
place.
it looks like there's more than one. There's him, and then there's a little being next to him.
And then another little being next to him. And there's others in that frame too, but those are the ones that kind of stand out the most.
Now,
Yeah.
do you feel that you're working with orbs, at all? Because there is a photographer, I don't know if you've heard of this, but who's taken very excellent orb pictures that have little faces exactly in the orbs. And I saw a whole presentation. This was at a conference, so I don't know where that person is or what. I don't even remember their name actually, but they had the best orb photos I'd ever seen. Very clear faces, like yours. Quite. You can definitely tell there's a being in there and so on.
So yeah, these aren't orbs. These are the beings themselves. If you ask me, what it is a transferring of the contents of my own awareness through the mean of the crystal, which is amplifying the signal. And then I'm just simply snapshotting the photo.
Okay. All right. So that's how you, yeah.
But actually what I'm seeing and being aware of in here is coming through. I'm showing you my mind.
Okay. So that's how you see it. What about the idea that they're actually there? I mean, I don't, I have what you call etheric sight, which perhaps you feel you do as well.
Sure.
Which means that I can see the beings. Now, I don't see them super clearly, but I see them quite well.
Yes.
And I can see lots of beings, depending on where I am and what's going on and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So, but in a sense, they look like light beings, even though they aren't necessarily light beings. So in some cases, there will be real light beings coming in, but there's also, what some people might refer to as ghosts, others are ETs, others, they're all different kinds of types of beings out there, as you obviously know. And so I just wondered if you, when in this sense, you're taking them and putting them into a crystal in a sense, and the crystal is kind of seeing what you're seeing. They're manifesting in the crystal. But if you were to
We're sending a signal. So like they're not getting into the crystal, they're sending a signal.
I understand.
And then I'm receiving the signal. Mm-hmm. And then we're amplifying that through the mean of the crystal.
Okay.
Yeah.
My question is actually, if you weren't using the crystal, would you also see them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then would you, in your mind's eye, so to speak, or even out in the physical, are you having a dialogue with them, like a two-way conversation? Or is it different than that?
Almost always since birth. Yeah, so my vision center has always been open, and I have always had what I call an extended range of vision. So I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about based on what you just said. And I also have what I call a reverse vision. I don't see 3D, and I never have. And it's why I had the top-down awakening, or perceived the top-down awakening, whereas most don't. They begin their perception level at the base in physical space. I didn't. I began my perception awareness at the top. And this is how I see. I see void, I see space, I see the particles that compose space. I can isolate a particle just out in the middle of the space and go inside of it. And it's a visual journey. At first when I see it, it's just like a 1D point of light out in the room. But if I give that point of light my attention, I can shift my awareness closer to it, and I begin to see it in 2D and then 3D. And then by 4D, I'm going inside of it, And it's just a way to go out of body. And I've been doing that since I was a kid.
Okay, so, and what about by location? Are you able to do that?
Well, in terms of the out-of-body experience. So I come from spiritual disciplines. And so I've been sitting in meditation since I was 12 years old, and Shavasana has been a main practice for me. And so when I was doing what I was thinking was simply Shavasana, what I was really doing was going out of body. And my first cognition of this was, I would be laying there, I would be wide awake. But then all of a sudden, I just didn't hear the ticking of the clock anymore, but I was wide awake, and things like that began happening. And then the awareness that some things that were in physical space were missing from the experience I was having in the practice. I began realizing I couldn't locate myself in the room. I couldn't locate even if it was day or night, or which room I was practicing in, like, was I at home or was I in class, or, I couldn't. And then I would feel I was bilocated. The reason I couldn't locate myself was because I could feel myself up there on the roof looking down while I was on the floor looking up. And so, that was sort of the first experiences of bilocation.
Right. Okay. Well,
but the OBE itself is also bilocation. You are in an additional field, and you realize in that field that you're not where your physical body is. And so it's bilocation.
Yeah. What I also meant is that, could be anywhere on Earth or
like teleport. Yeah. Okay. So yes.
Yeah, but it can also be sort of a bilocation kind of thing. It might be understood maybe more by the audience because it's a phenomena that also happens with remote viewers.
Yes.
They are honest about it, which they're not a lot. But anyway, they are in two places at once, as they say. And of course, maybe even more than two places, if you want to do something.
I can see why they would call it bilocation, and I can see why they wouldn't call it bilocation, because it's a single point of awareness, being aware of more than one location. And it's a little bit different than bilocation in that when you're bilocating, you're in a physical sense in two places. So,
well, it depends how much, in a sense, it depends how much you go into it.
Right.
So I can, even sitting here, I can bilocate very easily. So I just have this ability. And so I can go much more into it. And then I really am more on the other side, right? But I'm still aware that I'm here at the same time.
I would almost call that a OBE, if you're in a very physical sense in that other location.
Yeah, you would probably also relate to it with those words. Are you familiar?
Which is a bilocation. So, I mean, we're splitting hairs here.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Robert Monroe and
Oh, yes.
Institute?
Oh, yes.
Have you looked at his work, and did you feel like there was some similarities in what you're doing to his work, or did you feel that you were doing different things?
I discovered him after I began going out of body, when I was trying to figure out what the heck was happening with me. So he came along pretty soon into all of that. I didn't look so much into him at that time because I was looking for actual other people to connect with, and who I found was somebody who was very connected with him, but was still on the planet, and he had foreign boards, and I could go say, hey, yeah, some really weird stuff's happening over here. What is this? And I just started reading the boards and understanding, oh yeah, so okay, I didn't associate it with my meditation. I didn't associate it with my spiritual practice, because to me, some hardcore ET contacts were coming into the equation and skewing my whole, awareness of what was going on and putting the twos and twos together. And so much was happening with me that wasn't happening with other people, that it took even longer, because most people have the Kundalini awakening base to crown, and I had my crown base. So when you talk to other Kundalini people, they're not going out of body and, you know, stuff like that. They're just experiencing this weird physical phenomenon, not for some time. You know, they have to start at the base and move up to the awareness centers before they start, you know, being aware of the out of body state. And then it was just the reverse with the OBE people. I mean, they couldn't identify Kundalini. And I'm like, you know, they could identify the vibrational state, you know, phrase, but they couldn't identify all this other stuff that I had going on, like, you know, this energy coming on me before I laid down, you know, going to bed, being held wide awake, feeling like every bone in my body was being broken and reset, you know, that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it took some time. And even OBEers, I mean, very few OBEers out there, you know, the ones on the forum board that are really going out aren't going out into galactic space yet. You know, they're hovering in other more familiar territory, like their house, their neighborhood.
Well, yeah, and I guess it depends, you know, who you talk to and everything. Right. So I wouldn't want to generalize about, you know, everyone, but I would say that, at least in my experience, a lot of people talk a lot about Kundalini experiences, but what they've really had is some sort of minor chakra awakenings, but they haven't really gone full force into it. Very few people would even understand if, you know, talking about it. I can tell when I'm talking to them, they don't experience what I'm talking about. Yeah. So if it's a full body and full, you know, a full Kundalini experience, it involves both, you know, the whole thing. That's everything, but that's extremely rare, and sounds like you may have experienced it, but I can tell you that most people, even people that think they have no idea. You know, because it's so massive, I guess you might say, when it really.
Yeah, I think their experience is on a spectrum. So the pranic activations that you're mentioning, yeah, that's just sort of a part of what happens in the process of the K opening. So it's interesting to me where people's awareness come in on the event. Some don't come in on the event until you have the full 747, you know, thing, you know.
Well, I don't know. You know who David Icke is?
It feels like you're strapped to the underside of a 747. And then others.
David Icke. Do you know who David Icke is?
Sure. Yeah.
So he had, when he describes his experience, he had that kind of thing where it didn't seem like he had any preliminary anything. He just, you know, he sat on top of a hill, which I think it was a power place, which facilitated a sudden awakening. And it does happen with some people like that. Although whether you are able to maintain it, see, the body, as you may know, has to work up to it, has to be able to hold the energy, right? And maintain it, and it needs to grow. So it's not like a one-shot deal. And
by far.
and, you know, if it was a one-shot deal, it would kill you. I mean, basically, but it's not a one-shot deal. So holding the frequency in your body and learning how to do that, and then learning how to use it and maintain it, and then, you know, throw it and like chi and whatever you're doing with it. So yeah, I think it's great that you've done all that you have. I see that you had ET. I don't know if you would call it help. I'm not sure how you would view that in the early days. And when you talk about the group that you think you have a, you know, what I would call a bloodline relationship with, is that how you would view it?
I don't necessarily agree with what's coming through, I'll tell you that. So all I'm doing is reporting the news. And I have no feeling about it one way or the other. I'm not somebody who was like I'm not religious. There's no religious book behind me. There's no judgment that ran in my family against this kind of a person or that kind of a person. You know what I'm saying? None of that exists in this template. to a very, very tiny degree. And so, which is why I'm able to meet with so many of the different kinds of ET species. That was going somewhere, but I've already forgotten.
No, actually, I know exactly what you're talking about, because I would say I'm similar. I don't have a religious background. I don't have, all of that stuff. So I didn't have to work through that stuff to get an understanding of what's happening.
No, they're just telling a story. They're doing that by using faces or facial structures, and energies go along with that. When I'm working with the crystal, this is an experience. So this is not something that I'm looking at in a crystal. This is something I'm experiencing that I'm going to go ahead and share with other people now, because we're achieving this shareable wave at this point, which is very cool.
Okay, now, do you, when you see, obviously you see people, but you also see these various ETs.
And how they're connected.
Are you dealing with, well, for example, because there's typically, certain grays, there's many species of grays. So because I see you have a picture of gray on your front page of your website, right?
The one that's right there right now is Shun, and he's not a gray, but he's related. there's relations.
All right. And what about reptilians? Have you come across them much?
Sure, that's the biggest component of my template, dragon reptilian. No fear at all with the dragon reptilians. Fear extraordinarily so with the little gray ones, which is just funny, isn't it? That you can see this mammoth creature that, looks like it would scare anyone and anything, and having no fear for it. And then this little tiny gray thing comes in that almost looks anatomical, and the nervous system goes like this.
With the shakar, which is the, Draco. So have you dealt with them, or have you dealt with other reptilians?
Very, very different. The dragons and the reptilians that are associated with me are what I call from the magical realms. Do
you have any pictures of them? Let's start there, maybe that for the audience's sake.
Yes, I think I brought Araya. So these frames are really tiny. Give me just a second to find it. I think that one is Araya.
Okay, and since this is a pre-record, don't worry about any time you need to take. Go right ahead. Okay. And this is, do they name themselves, or, do you name them? How does that work?
I connect with them and receive a concept. Okay. Yes.
All right. So, and you consider this what?
A dragon. She's a dragon. And she came through. I don't know if you can see the pineal region and the hue being emanated. This is a pineal activation. So she came through so others can gaze at the frame, as in, do a Tritak upon the frame and receive a pineal activation. So sometimes they come through with tasks like this that are more obvious. Okay.
All right. Fascinating. So in terms of, have you heard of the raptors, for example?
I have had none come through yet. The main one who comes through is Arn. Arn, I think that's my working thought at this time, is that portion of my higher fractal consciousness that is closestly associated with this lifetime. So what other people would call the higher self, it's just that there's multiple fractals of the higher self. This is the one that's closer to me, or closest to me. Okay. And this is how the Anunnaki come through to me.
So you think this is an Anunnaki?
This is a caricature version of Arn. Yes, he's their true life structures are magnificent, terrifying, terrific. So don't get a wrong impression, because we're seeing a sort of a caricature version of who he is. But at the very top of the tree, of Ur, the Ur family tree, is a king and a queen. It's very clearly, they come through as a king and a queen. And the king is On. So the story of the Anunnaki was one of the first that came through to me after my birth into the earth life story. And then on the other side is a black dragon queen who comes through to me with the name Nyala. And that's different than what the books would say, but that's the name with which she comes through to me. And this is a dragon reptilian. So one side of the tree of the Anunnaki, as you know, fractaled down by On, is met with a female that is a dragon reptilian, according to the crystal.
Okay.
No.
So in terms,
I don't know this story.
what?
I did not know this story. I had never heard the word Anunnaki before these pictures began coming through.
Right.
And again, the concepts come through with them. So I simply do a search with the concepts that are coming through. What comes up, and what's discovered is discovered.
All right. Now, have you ever traveled in Egypt or, the Middle East or any of that?
I've never traveled.
You never traveled. Okay. So you never went outside the United States either, to South America?
Once to New Zealand. Yeah. It's like the only time I ever went anywhere.
All right. Well, New Zealand is a fabulous place to go, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was nice.
All right. So in terms of the stories they're telling you or the communications that are going on, you say you're part of a group, sort of like. And
I am part of this tree. Yes, I am part of this whole tree. And this whole tree, they're telling me thousands, but only hundreds have come through at this point. So I don't know if thousands is true.
Well, actually, what I meant Earth people that you're dealing with in your group. You said you had sort of a group that you're dealing with. So
yes,
what I'm curious about is that, you're getting these pictures. What are they getting similar stuff, or are they sort of participating in another way? What is their role?
Their role is to bring through the others who are, who would, so when I read the crystal and I'm not reading for someone else, only my beings come through. And usually the ones that are working with me the most, that are having something to say or a story to tell or something like that. So the others, so like anybody can request one of these renderings from me. We're an unconditional platform so there's no charge or fee ever associated with it. You just go onto the website and read the page. I ask that you do read it and send me everything that's there as far as information wise. Mostly I just need people to tell me they're okay with the shared nature of this work. We don't do anything in private. And then you just request a rendering. You can send a picture if you want a side by side. Often people like to see themselves next to the being who came through for them. And that's the role that they play. They get it rolling. So it's sort of like when somebody's channeling. If you don't have somebody out there asking a question, nothing gets channeled. So this is just a visual way to channel. And so the group participates, and by offering dialogue, letting me know what they see, working through, fear structures. Even though, this guy looks pretty harmless right here, a lot of people, this terrifies a lot of people.
Sure. Well, I mean, I could see that. They are not seeing it, though, in, let's say, the 3D world around them. They're just seeing it in the picture that you, again, are showing photographing through the crystal. So it's kind of encapsulated in a manageable, way. Now I'm bringing up this website here just to show people. I think you have a link. I'm going to see if I can get to your actual website here while we're online. Yeah. So tell us about this, where it goes about, and you've got a lovely design of light coming through here. Is this a photograph that you did, someone took of you? Is there anything you want to talk about that?
I was just outside recording a video in just the right place at just the right time where I was being bathed in these rays. So I'm just standing in front of the laptop, showing them to everybody. I know I'm catching a photo to show everybody.
Okay, very good. Lovely.
So I work directly with the light, and I work directly with the elemental realm, which is how we're able to work with crystals and do this work at all. It is a form of alchemy. We are working in cooperation with the elemental kingdom to create that shareable wave that allows other people to actually view what it is I'm showing them. If we weren't working with the elemental realm, if the elemental realm wasn't cooperating with this endeavor, you would not see what I see. It's like those pictures where everybody looks at it, but everybody sees something different, or,
Right.
Yeah. But here we're creating the shareable wave, and that requires the elemental realm cooperation.
Okay, so it says a request, so what you do is are you inviting, you say you have a group, but do you invite like outside parties to participate then?
And anybody, yeah, anybody can. We're an open system, entirely open system. And you're on the board right now. This is the forum board.
Okay.
And there's a section on the forum. You just went into the gallery, but if you go into where it says forums and scroll down, you can see there's just all kinds of things we discuss. We have Zooms, meditations, healing circles. We focus on the out-of-body experience. I mentor others in the out-of-body experience.
Okay.
At no charge. This is an unconditional platform. So bring your energy and your interest, and we dive in. So the out-of-body experience, the conscious shift, really, ET contact, and of course the crystal work, conscious contact. I just call it conscious contact because, of course, we're contacting more than simply, as you said, the galactic neighbors.
All right. So is there anything that you would like to talk about, or any, image that you would like to, I don't know, explore or explain in more detail while we're still on this recording, so that, people can get a better idea about maybe some of the communications you've had? Like, in other words, have you gotten, some people that end up doing some of this would even call it channeling, and they would get, pages and pages of information, for example. Some people do automatic writing, some people hear it telepathically and take it down. I don't know if you know, let's see, Patricia Corey is someone who is in contact with the Syrian beings. Mm-hmm. And a certain group of Syrians, and she downloads books from them, literally, and publishes them. Mm-hmm. So do you get this kind of information, or have you so far?
I get it for myself in the out-of-body experience, but when you shift back into physical space from the out-of-body experience, you're fortunate to, even if it seems like you can write pages and pages, it's just so tiny in comparison to what happened. You can't bring it back that way. I have to open the vocal channel to begin, either allowing the writing to happen, or the vocal channeling to happen, one or the other. So we started on visuals and bringing through the formations. And now the task is to bring through the information. And so, yes, that's coming, and I have started, but it requires my full 24/7 attention to it. So I can't be working an outside job and do this. I just can't, because I'm a hospital worker. So it's a pretty hardcore work. So what I would show people is relative to some of the information that I'm told. This is something that I could show you. So I'm shown how, and I'm often shown geometrically because I have this sort of kaleidoscopic awareness. So I'm shown geometrically how it is that the transfers of the signals are happening. So they're telling me how a picture like this can come as clearly through a crystal itself as through, for instance, our cell phone cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And so like they show me the geometry, and I'm even taken right inside the geometry to experience the geometry through my body system cells. That's a part of what the Kundalini allows. So, and things like this. But I myself, as my earth person, cognitively cannot break that down. That has to come down, in a different way, as you know. So yeah, we're working on it. We'll see if we get another year. If we get another year, that might happen.
Are you familiar with the work of Ashana Dean and her Voyager books?
Yes, I haven't read her Voyager books, but I'm aware of her. Yeah.
Okay, well, you can see in my background, actually, I've got an image from, this is an image that she's, sort of downloaded from the beings that she's dealing with, called the Guardian Alliance. And she works graphically. That's how her mind works. Similar to what you're talking about, it sounds like. And she ends up with, reams of images that she draws, that she renders, but they come to her, right?
Nice.
So, but that's how she gets it. And she also gets it in terms of words, obviously, that she's now written into the 2 Voyager books and a few other books. And mostly she does workshops where she talks about the information, shows her graphics, and tries to convey it that way. But it is a full-time job, no doubt.
It is, and just getting it on. So we're still in the stages of getting it on, in its full light. So you're getting it live on the spot here. It's not like, we got it on and here's the result. It's like, this is us getting it on. This is the discovery being made. This is us clearing the structure for the work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
baby. Well, that's great. Now, how many people are in this human group that you're dealing with? Is there a set number that you're dealing with, or is it?
But it's a small group. I think there's something like 300 or 400 on the forum board, but only like maybe 20 active participants. The rest are just lurking in the background. The same thing with the Facebook group. I'm not on. I don't do Facebook, or I don't have time for all that. But we do have a group that's over there. It's likewise the same size. I haven't been opening myself to connect with a larger audience. I'm opening myself to connect with those I'm meant to connect with, certainly. And I think it is a clustered group. This is not anything that I think is going to jet rocket around the globe, or at least I sort of hope that it doesn't, which is why we keep the reins tight in. Because I don't know, because you connect with so many people, that's not an easy thing to do. I don't know if I've got that in me.
Well, you never know, but I understand totally. And everyone has a different path. So
yeah, we're definitely starting to write, and we're starting out. The book we're starting to write is called The Book of Ur. It's called Ur, the Bloodline of Ur. That's our working title at this time. And it comes with a lot of photo pictures. People are going to love this. People love pictures.
Okay, now do you feel there's a connection with Göbekli Tepe, because it's in
absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, fascinating. There's a museum, and I've also made a documentary. You might want to watch it. I think we made more than one, maybe 2. But we went into the museum, and they've got these carvings that were found, unearthed, archaeology, and dug out of the ground. And they are, some of them are actual beings, and it's fascinating. So I don't know if let me know but I can send you the links and such, and it might be fun for you to see.
That'd be great. I may have already seen it, because I do watch most of your stuff. Especially that kind of stuff. And when you travel around and lecture, I'm more interested in lectures than I usually am interviews, just because time is limited. So I just go for the.
Well, I hold conferences once a year also in England, and we have, obviously we lecture on those and such. But okay, well, I mean, I'm not sure where to go from this point on. Is there anything else that occurs to you that you might want to discuss or bring forward? And it'd be lovely to talk to you in the future, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I hope we stay in touch. Yeah, because all of this is just unfolding and watching a thing unfold. Well, that's what I would say. We're here to show people the process. We're not here to show anybody a final result. We're here to show people the process. And it's the main thing that's wanting to come through me. So where I am in the process, where people are in their processes, where our processes connect, again, everything is kaleidoscopic. It's all about connections too. So if that's, you know, interesting to you, you know, link in through the website, consciousnessexploration.com. And if you want to talk with me, there's the forum board. That's where I'm most active.
Okay, excellent. All right, well, thank you so much.
If you want to meet who would come through to you, you know how to do it. You just pop over to consciousnessexploration.com, request a rendering, read in detail that page, send me the energy that I asked for, because I really need you to feel what this, you know, your reason for wanting this is. That's what you're going to push out to me, and that's what helps very clear portraits come through.
Excellent. Okay, very, very nice. I think there will be people interested, so thank you.
We meet the widest array of beings with the widest array of requests. Like, this work only happens with all of you guys out there. So connect.
Right. Well, yeah, this is how they operate. As you may know, they don't want to necessarily deal with governments. They'd rather deal with, you know, the people, individual people. So
yeah, say they only are dealing with individual people.
A huge array of beings out there. And so it's great that you're getting manifestations and able to show them. I think that
so many different ones. And if you want to see a large group of them all together, on the website is a page simply called The Beings. You can click into that. There's about 100 of them there. You see little thumbnails of them all together to get an idea of how different they all are. And I've started linking those to where you can see the picture more full size, and the little bit I'm starting to write about them. Yeah, okay. It's coming gradually.
Fabulous. All right, well, thank you so much for being on my show, Casey.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
And I love your photographs. I think they're fascinating, but they're also beautiful to look at.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that might stimulate a lot of interesting dialogue going forward.
And they can be used for contact. Sure. So focus your gaze into the frames, your eyes into the eyes of the beings, and connect. You will have this is a real being, mm-hmm. and real space.
Yes.
Who can really connect with you and give you a contact experience. If a contact experience is something that you're wanting. And there's such a wide variety of the different types of beings that, you know, you have your choice, the gamut. And you can begin acclimating your system. I mean, all of this is about acclimating the human central nervous system for contact. This is how we're helping with that.
Right. Okay. Very well said. All right. Well, thank you so much again. And we'll revisit this, okay, in the future if you're willing and you're interested.
Absolutely. I'd be delighted.
All right. Take care.
And okay, you.
Thanks, everyone.